Okay, so my first question is how and when did you learn about giving tzedakah? And also, when did the idea and the concept of tzedakah and the mitzvah to give tzedakah really become meaningful to you?
In terms of when did I learn about giving tzedakah, I learned about tzedakah in Hebrew school. So just, I don't know if you need to know this information, but I didn't, as you know, I didn't grow up religious, but I went to Hebrew school from third grade till 12th grade. And one of the things we learned, I don't remember exactly when we learned it, was giving tzedakah and, the importance of how it's such a mitzvah and all of that. Um, Tzedakah became more meaningful to me. I think it's always been meaningful to me, but it really became more meaningful to me as an adult, specifically once I learned, I don't remember exactly when I learned it, but that tzedakah can really, save from death. And I just think it's a really important concept that I don't know is really talked about. That like you could be walking down the street and someone asks you for tzedakah, and if you have, you should always try to give it because you don't know if that shekel or that penny or whatever amount it is could save you from something horrendous or save one from something horrendous. So that's when it really became more meaningful for me.
That's really interesting to see someone else who learned about that, how tzedakah saves from death. So that's really interesting. My second question is, how often do you try to give tzedakah?
So currently, I give tzedakah on a daily basis, but that's because I'm also doing like 40 days of the kotel, and part of that for me is giving, tzedakah to the ladies who sit there on a daily basis. But I would say, in like the usual time of my life, I would say, on a weekly basis, tzedakah is something that's really important to Sam and I, and that's something we really try to integrate into our life. I would say, weekly.
That's really nice that you try to give weekly. I know personally it's a struggle, but hopefully I'll get there. So my third question is, how much do you try to give to tzedakah on like a yearly basis?
In terms of how much we try to give per year, I don't know the math on that. But we try to give, through Maaser, we try to give 10% or as close to 10% as we can. And then we typically give more on top of that. So I don't know what the math would be on a yearly basis, but I guess 10% of our yearly earnings. Does that make sense? But probably a little bit more than 10% because we take aside like from what we earn, our monthly maaser, but then we also like give tzedakah on top of that. So I don't know, I guess go with like 10 to 15% of our yearly revenue, I guess.
Um, 10 to 15% of yearly earnings is a lot, so props to you on that one. My fourth question is, how do you decide who to give tzedakah to, and who are those people?
Okay, question four. Um, so one thing that's interesting that my mom actually taught me that her dad actually taught her is this concept that you should always give to an older person if you're in a situation where like there's an older person, a younger person, because an older person doesn't always have as much opportunity as a younger person does in terms of like, what's going on in their lives and potentially getting a job. So that's something that's always kind of stuck with me. It's a weird concept. I don't know if it's really like a Jewish concept. I don't know. But I would say like I try to give when people ask if I can. Like if I'm walking down the street and someone says like tzedakah, if I have, I always check if I have, even if it's small shkalim, I always try to give. Um, yeah, that's how I decide. There's also like we have a few different organizations that we give to. Um, you know, there's two that are specifically for children in Jerusalem specifically who, don't necessarily have the funds at home. So we give to two of those organizations. We give to an organization that helps people with infertility to try to bring their, dreams to reality. Um, and we also give, there's a guy who actually has been coming to our door for years who, we always used to give him like, small change and whatnot. And then there was one time that he came and I forget exactly when it was, but he asked me, and he's like, listen, there's a mother who, is having a really hard time and she has a bunch of kids. Like, would you be able to give on a monthly basis? And I said, yes. So, thank God he came to me and, I just gave to him. So I know we try to give to people. Well, I try to give when people ask, but also try to give to organizations that, I feel connected to and I feel some sort of, need to give to.
That's really nice that you were able to give that man on behalf of that woman. Um, so for my final question, why is tzedakah really important to you, and why is tzedakah um, a really prevalent part of your life?
Tzedakah is important to me on a few different levels. One, it's a mitzvah, so like, why not, kind of get my checkbox in and get my cha-ching, cha-ching, with the one above. So there's that. That's the first thing. But also, giving is, I think, really important because, kind of in the bigger picture and in like the universe. And I know this isn't such a like I wouldn't say that the meaning to me is not rooted in, Jewish concept, but like, when it comes to karma and like what you put out in the universe, like what you put out in the universe is what comes back to you. So, whatever energies or things that you're kind of vibrating into the world, it comes back to you. So I personally think it's a great way to, first of all, feel good in the moment, but also kind of more long term, it's kind of a sort of an insurance, but it's like it's good for me in the moment. Um, and I don't know, going back to the idea of like tzedakah apparently saves from death, like I think that not apparently, it's, they, whoever they are, say that tzedakah saves from death. So, it's important to, save myself from death if I can. That sounds a little silly saying it out loud, but I think that that's important. Um, yeah, that's why tzedakah is so important to me. It's also, I don't know, there's a really nice feeling you get when you give tzedakah, of like I'm giving to someone else, and thank God I'm in a situation where I'm not the one on the receiving end. So that makes me feel good that like I have enough that I can share.